You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody. Hi, and thanks for coming back to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, which for about 6 weeks is going to be Mighty Blue on the Camino de Santiago. Last time we spoke, it was my regular Thursday morning. This is the first time ever that a Mighty Blue episode will be going out on a Monday morning. And I'm kind of excited by that to see how that works out. We had about 1,100 of you listen to the first episode, and while it wasn't great, I'm trying to work my way through it, and hopefully this is going to get better as time goes on. Once again, thanks to Ryan Hopkins for getting this out there for us. We've had 4 days we've got 4 days to report upon this week, which is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th days. Plus, I've got a really, really interesting interview with a family, a guy actually, and his 2 kids. So I'll tell you about that when we get to it. That happened on day 4. But for now, let's start with day number 3. Today was day 3, and the profile looked really simple. For the first time, I used my Teva sandals. Teva actually sent me some sandals after the Outdoor Retailer show, and I thought I'd make use of them. It was really because I wanted to get rid of the need to push my toes against my toe box, because that was really hurting me on the downhills. I must say, these Teva sandals were an amazing success, because the more you hike down, when your feet are kind of loose, I put 2 pairs of socks on. Your feet push forward and into the box of your shoes. It's not a good thing, and my toes are really bruised up. So I put two pairs of socks on today, including my Gingy toe socks, which was cool, and a pair of socks over the top. And that worked great on the downhill. And in fact, it was a whole lot easier to hike today, to be fair. For a lot of the day, we were on a path anyway through the trees, which was nice. And we crossed the river at one point, and we all assembled at a bar. Crossing the river, across this bridge, you saw this bar next door, and everybody made a noise that they were so pleased to see a bar there. And everybody was sitting in there. It was beautiful. So we had a beer, a coffee, and a sandwich. And we moved on to beat the rain, and Emma and I started hiking and chatting with a young woman from Norwich called Beth. She's a voiceover artist, and we spoke about the possibilities of my dulcet English tones. My dulcet English tones doing some voiceover work. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Now, Pamplona is a big city, and we were in the outskirts for some time and trekking through the newer part of the city, and I must say, it wasn't terribly impressive to start with. However, we headed up into the older city, and it was beautiful. There were some magnificent buildings there. Really, really enjoyed it. We found a bar, of course. That's the thing the British do when they go abroad. They're trying to find bars as much as possible. We had some fish soup, bread and wine, which was nice. And once more, we'd done it again. We'd decided we were not going to stay in an albergue. We were going to stay in a posh hotel. Emma is a nightmare when it comes to this sort of thing. She does not want to stay in an albergue with tons of people, in 90 bedrooms, 90 beds in one big room. So I can see why she doesn't really want to do that. And anyway, so we found a hotel called the Hotel Maisonneuve. 99 euros later, I fell asleep on my bed and woke up for a shower before heading out. I can tell you, this place, it was really nicely done, but oh my gosh, it was so warm in there. I actually asked them to change my room, and they said to me, well, the air conditioning is not working too well. Well, they were not exaggerating. It was useless, absolutely hopeless. So later that night, they put me in this newer room. I had to have the windows open fully with no air conditioning working, and the noise from outside went on till about 5 o'clock in the morning. It was a nightmare. It really was. But before we knew all about that, we went out, And we went on Yelp, and I was looking for somewhere to eat. You know, we were in the middle of Pamplona. It was a beautiful old city, and I wanted somewhere good. And we both fancied tapas. And I found a place called Gaucho Bar. It was simply glorious. It was 23 euros. We had a couple of beers. Was it wine we had? We had a couple of beers. And we had 3 plates of tapas each, 23 euros, which is an absolute bargain. We thoroughly enjoyed that. And after that, we spent about a nice little half hour going around like a pair of beggars, going to this like open market where we were getting samples of cheese and... It was a farmer's market, yeah, and cheese and so on. It was absolutely beautiful. It was a great day, really, as always, really enjoyed it. We're 3 days in. Very disappointed about the hotel, though. Neither of us could sleep. But this morning, and I'm actually recording this in the middle of day 4, this morning we got up and I got British on them, as you do, and complained about the room, and they gave it to us half price. So that helped. But that's day 3. We're in the middle of day 4, and I'll tell you about that next. So that was Pamplona, and I enjoyed it there. I really loved it there. But we were heading out again and leaving the city. So let's hear about what happened on day 4. It's the beginning of day 5, and I'm sitting downstairs, outside actually, in our albergue, which was €5 last night. There was activity going on all around me as people were sort of setting out for the new day. We haven't experienced this so far. I'm not sure that Emma's terribly impressed with it. We shared a room last night. Let me think. There must have been 16 bunks, all with people in, snoring, farting, and whatever else is people do in these things. Oh my gosh! But you know what? It was more atmospheric than we've had before, in more way than one. And one of the guys we met, a guy called Robert, he very kindly invited us to share in the cost of a meal, and said, he would cook it, and he cooked paella, which was great. We just all sat around this long table chatting, which is what the hiking experience tends to be about, I think. So looking back now, yesterday, it was a fantastic hiking day. We left Pamplona. We had a really full breakfast, and we got pissed off with them, and we got half the bill back, which was good. I think I mentioned that yesterday. And we get led through the streets by a combination of other hikers and signs strewn all along the trail. So, we know where we're going most of the time. You just watch where people go. One guy did all lead us down the wrong path, and we had to all turn back. That was quite funny. It was really interesting to see the old city, which was beautiful, give way to the new, which wasn't as beautiful. And then finally we saw fields, and we headed down a path onto those fields. And there were stone and gravel paths all the way through. And on the way out of town, actually, both Emma and I bought trekking poles at an outfitter's shop. It was on our route, and it was conveniently open, of course, because that's the time hikers would be coming past. And an ambulance is just driving past slowly. And it was a day of small villages, bars or cafes. We actually stopped 3 times, and we were walking on a small ridge between open fields quite often, eventually finding our way up towards these wind turbines at the top of the hill. It was really windy up there as well, and this iconic sort of Camino sign of travellers before heading off down the other side. These downs are brutal on my toes, and I've bruised one of my toes, my big toe, on my left side pretty badly. And one young lad allowed me to use his clippers to cut my nails last night after I showered, of course. I was back in my hiking shoes and not my tethers. I thought I'd go back in my shoes, and I had 2 pairs of socks on, which was a good idea and really helped almost set my feet more firmly, so I wasn't sliding forward so much. That really helped. But I'm actually going to be back in my tethers today because I bruised it so bad previously. One last thing I forgot from the other day. We were entering Pamplona, and the streets were a little slick, and I slid on a manhole cover, and I took my second tumble. It wasn't bad. I didn't hurt myself, but I don't fall light, so it felt quite uncomfortable. And I don't know whether a lot of you obviously don't follow my Hiking Radio Network Facebook page, but if you did, you would have seen a picture we posted the other day where my niece Emma and I had seen this. We called her our Chinese ghost. It turns out she's South Korean and a lovely woman, and she was wearing this white poncho. Off-white poncho. She looked like a ghost from the distance. So I got her this picture of Emma, and she was off to the side, so I then zoomed in on the picture. It wasn't meant to be cruel, I know, but, anyway, this was her. She was our Chinese ghost. Well, believe it or not, when I fell over, the first person to reach me and the hands that picked me up helped pick me up off the ground was our Chinese ghost. I don't know what that means, but it was kind of spooky, but lovely of her to help, and so I was back on my way again. But we're now going to pass the 100 kilometres mark today. We're on our way to Estella. We're now in Puente la Reina. Day 5 is Puente la Reina to Estella. Another about a 15 mile day, and I believe it's got plenty of places to stop. And Emma and I are desperate for some breakfast because the €5 albergue, probably not surprisingly, does not provide breakfast. But it was a good place to be, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye. Now we're going to have the first of the interviews, and I'm really pleased to introduce a guy called Kelly. He'll tell you how to spell his second name in a minute. Kelly was hiking with his wife Jenny, their sons Spencer and Ethan, and they've got quite a story to tell, I tell you. They really have had an adventure. I'm just going to let Kelly share that adventure with you now. Okay, we're here with Kelly, and he's here with his wife Jordan, his son Jordan, his wife Jenny, and his other son Ethan. And you're on a bit of a trip, aren't you? So,
we are.
Yeah. When did your trip start?
Well, it actually started on June 1st, but the preparation for the trip actually started a month before that. All right. And how it kind of all came together is we had just had our 2 oldest kids get married this last spring. And,
oh, right. I heard you talking about that.
Yeah. I heard that. And our 2 youngest kids, it just seemed like they weren't kind of maturing like our 2 oldest were. They weren't really ready for adulthood, and our son had just turned 18 and was just kind of floundering a bit. And so we wanted to go ahead and figure out how could we go ahead and give them kind of a boost in the arm. Like most kids these days, they would go to school, come home, would find them playing video games, would tell them that... would tell them, you know what? Guys, do your homework. And then they'd do their homework, and then the next thing we knew, they were playing video games again. So they basically spent all their time in the basement playing video games. We just didn't feel like that was really preparing them for adulthood. And we just felt like we wanted to give them a gift of knowing that they could do something hard. Sure. And so we started thinking, started praying. We're of the faith of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we just started praying, trying to figure out what could we do to kind of give them the gift of knowing how to work and do hard things. And long story short, we just kind of had these thoughts start to come to us and had the idea that we would take them on an epic adventure.
And it certainly is epic, isn't it?
It was. So that was kind of the end of April. And we felt like we needed to go as quickly as we could. My son had a girlfriend, and we think the world of her, but their relationship was getting really intense really fast. And so we just kind of felt like this needed to happen quick. So we went ahead and bought our airline tickets for June 1st. That gave us just over a month to rent out our house, to kind of put all the details in order. And they did. They just came in a month, literally. We went from not knowing this was going to happen until we were loading our bags and heading to the airport.
And the plan was to go to Sweden, wasn't it?
Well, the plan, we didn't know what the plan was. The plan, we actually thought, well, we'll just go to England, because we initially thought, we'll go to England, we'll purchase a motorhome RV in England, and then we'll kind of travel around England and the UK and then through Europe. And we found that process was a little bit more difficult, but just at the time that we were deciding that, we had a friend step up that says, hey, my dad lives in Sweden. He'll help you buy a motorhome. And so we sent him the money for the motorhome. It was kind of a leap of faith, sending him a big chunk of money. But then we flew to England, and then we had to get a flight to Sweden to get the RV. So we ended up spending a little time in England, flew to Sweden, picked up the RV, and then with the way that the visa works, we really only have 90 days within the Schengen countries within a 180-day window. And so we've kind of really had to manage our time within Europe. So we kind of, when we picked up the RV, we immediately started heading south through Sweden, through Denmark, and then took a ferry over to the United Kingdom and spent most of the summer there. Yeah, and so we got to see some beautiful country. Scotland is amazing.
So you headed this way. You headed the Camino, and
right.
Where did you start the Camino?
So we started it in Saint Jean, Puy de Port, and actually started at the beginning on the French side, and climbed through the Pyrenees Mountains.
And what was that like? And I know what it's like.
Because you just did it. Yeah. Let me just put it to you this way. We realized our lack of preparation. It was probably the most strenuous hike I think we've ever done as a family.
Did it shock you?
You know what? It was shocking. It was absolutely beautiful.
Course, yeah,
just
great.
Absolutely amazing. But the Camino has a way of wearing away the edges and removing the layers, and we definitely knew within about 3/4 of the way up the mountain that our son Ethan was in trouble. He started walking like an old man and shuffling his feet. We knew he was having a hard time and in pain, but we kind of hobbled our way up, and then once you cross the peak and start the down, that's where our lack of preparation, Mom and Dad's lack of preparation, started to show up, and our knees were burning and on fire, and so that first night
Emma's laughing at all of this, by the way,
well,
because she felt exactly the same.
She knows our pain, yeah. So we ended up stumbling and shuffling into Rosconvales and spent the night there at that monastery, and we're so grateful that we had just made it. Our health app basically said we had gone just over 18 miles, and I think it's like 25 kilometers or something like that. So we were grateful to be done with that. And then day 2, we started out, we seemed to be doing okay, but before we got more than about 3 kilometers, my son, our youngest son, was back to walking like an old man and shuffling along. And notwithstanding our attempts to buy new shoes, we realized that we weren't going to make it far. We were slowed to a snail's pace. So we made the decision to take a taxi into Pamplona and spend 2 days healing while we enjoyed the comforts of an Airbnb with a tub with a.
How's Ethan feeling now? Because you're back on the road today, and I've seen you walking today. How's he feeling now?
You know what? He's feeling great. We bought some new boots for him just in the Pyrenees, and they seem to be doing really well. They're comfortable for him, so I would say that Mom and Dad are holding us up more than him today. So,
good.
Which is good.
That's
yeah.
Good. Now, tell me, I know you're a man of faith, and
you know what? What we believe is that everybody should have the right to believe as their conscience dictates. And so we have a lot of respect for other religions and other people's beliefs, even if those beliefs extend to the belief of God. We feel like if it's right to protect how we believe, it should be right for us to stand up and be willing to protect somebody that doesn't even believe in God, if that makes sense.
Does this take you on? Because this has a spirit. Are you getting the spirituality?
Well, that was one of the challenges that we had for each of us in our family, was to come up with a purpose for our Camino. And it's interesting to hear what each of us have come up with. My youngest son, Ethan, who's 12, his was to have more patience. And again, this has not been cued by Mom and Dad. This is all strictly from their own
Good
inspiration.
Right. And work it out by that.
Well, it's not. It's the reality is it's when you're doing this and you're being taxed beyond your normal, it's easy for tempers to flare and for you to be frustrated. So Spencer is his focus is more about preparing for within our faith. When we're 18 years old, we have a chance to volunteer to go away from family and from school for 2 years to serve a mission. Most people have seen our missionaries out there, men and women with black name badges, and they leave home for 18 to 24 months to basically dedicate their time to serve the people in the countries that they go. I did, yeah. I served. I had the fortune of serving in the islands off the west coast of Africa, so the Canary Islands, Madeira, and the Azores. And so for our son, he's getting to that age, and we don't force him to do this. We know what a difference it made for us. And so we've kind of, with him, we're challenging him to make this journey a matter of prayer, to ask if this is something he should do so he knows for himself.
And what about Mum and Dad? What was their thing?
So my wife, no, I'm willing to share. So my wife, hers is about charity. If you get to know my wife very much, she's very passionate. She says exactly what's on her mind, and she speaks her mind, which is why there's the good is I never have to question if I'm in trouble. That's one of the distinct benefits, is I never have to doubt that. But at the same time, there are downsides of being that passionate. And so for her focus on this is charity. And so each of us have adopted like a scripture that we read each morning as we walk to contemplate, why are we here and why are we doing this? For me, and this is maybe a little bit more personal, but I'm here for addiction. And I know this sounds a little weird to be talking about my sons being addicted to video games and those kinds of things, but in my business, I spend literally from the morning I get up until I go to bed at night, either in front of a computer or on my telephone. And so I have gotten to the place where it's gotten so bad that I feel phantom rings in my pocket, or vibrations in my pocket where I think I'm hearing my phone ring, and I've just got to the point where I realize I've got to be able to work out my business and still do a great job for my clients. Not being so caught up in attached.
Well, probably helping you out now. You're speaking into my phone. So
I know. And so we've intentionally tried to do that. I've got a team that's taken most of my calls at home, and so I'm unfortunately kind of disengaged from that, if that makes sense. And so for me, I'm kind of walking to gain better perspective about how to be able to order my life in such a way that I'm not addicted to my technology, so that I can incorporate others into my business, so that we actually can have some downtime and disengage to spend our most important time with the people who matter most, if that makes sense.
With your family, yeah. So I appreciate you sharing it, because it's interesting. We all do this for different reasons, and
right.
Already I've seen a number of people. I haven't interviewed, you're my first interview actually, but a number of people are doing it for so many different reasons, and I love that part of it. They share. People share and tell things they wouldn't otherwise tell when you do this. So I appreciate you saying this.
No, it's my pleasure.
Thanks
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
What a lesson to teach your kids, eh? Do something difficult, and making it kind of tough on these kids, but I've passed them several times and they're all so happy to be doing what they're doing. They're such a gregarious family. Kelly and Jenny chat with everybody, and as you can tell in the interview, I got the name of their son, Spencer, wrong, so sorry about that, Spencer. If you want to follow along with their blog or follow them on Instagram, you can go to Wander, WANDER, number 4, Purpose, PURPOSE.com, and you're going to find it there. That interview was longer than the sort of interviews I intended to do, but I really got into it and I really enjoyed listening to Kelly. So, day 5 was Saturday, and we didn't quite achieve what we wanted to achieve on day 5, but let's hear now. Day 5 was supposed to be, and according to our 34-day plan, from Puente La Reina to Estella. about 14 or 15 mile day, and the profile didn't look at all bad, so we felt we could do it reasonably well. Unfortunately, I left my boots back at the hostel. I had to return to get them because I was wearing my tethers once more. I mean, these tethers have been great for my toes, I've got to tell you. We stopped for breakfast in the town, and that kind of sort of set the pattern for the day. We were in no great hurry to do this because we could see the profile looked quite easy. The walking's getting easier. We've got a few injuries and aches and pains that pop up occasionally, but we feel like we were doing pretty well so far. We could pass people, we get passed by people, then we pass many of the same people. Always it's a brief Buen Camino or Buenos Dias or some sort of Spanish thing like that. One of our main concerns for the day was that Estella, according to the number of phone calls I've made, didn't appear to have many or even any vacancies. So Em and I were getting a bit worried about not actually calling ahead and trying to reserve somewhere. We thought we could probably get into an albergue, but frankly, we didn't want to spend another €5 dossing down with about 16 other people. We wanted a little bit more comfort than that. So in the end, we couldn't find anywhere in Estella. So we set our sights on a place called Villa Tuerta. We knew we probably wouldn't get anywhere terribly comfortable, but because we were concerned we wouldn't get into Estella at all, Villa Tuerta is a small town that was about 2 or 3 miles before Estella. We also passed through 3 or 4 villages. It was a lovely day for that. It was a beautiful day, nice and warm, possibly even too warm sometimes. We passed through Maniero, Siraqui, and Lorca, and every one of which received our euros as we stopped for a beer, a coffee, sometimes both, and sometimes some food. And always people would throw off their packs, sit down with each other, just generally chat and talk and eat and drink and just hang out with each other. And I feel this is how the trail is and how it's supposed to be, and probably how it's always been for all those years. You're sharing this. You've got this shared burden and expectation of doing a difficult thing and going a long way, and hopefully you kind of want to encourage your fellow travellers along the way. But when you leave a town, the climbs often, because the towns are often dominated by a church at the top of a hill. So it's normally a gentle climb into the hill, into the town rather. And we felt we were on a kind of roller coaster, kind of gentle roller coaster as the day went on, going from town to town and stopping and throwing down our packs. And when you leave a town, we're kind of directed across a local field to follow a path that's directly alongside ploughing fields or ploughed fields and these small, gentle hills. And these first few days have encouraged me, actually, because I wasn't expecting it to be quite as beautiful as it has been. So I strongly recommend this hike, the way in which we see it so far anyway, to anybody who thinks that it isn't going to be terribly pretty. It really is. It's so calm out here as well. We eventually reached Villa Tuerta, and we settled for the first name of a albergue we saw. It was the La Casa Magica, and we handed over our €14 for the night. And this was far better than the one we had the previous day. We had 2 beds in a room with 6, all of which were taken, basically none of which were taken at the time, but 2 couples, one about the same age as me and the others in their 50s, which can't be very nice for them, I guess. We sat and chatted with these people as my laundry was getting done. And then Emma and I walked about 50 yards to the nearest bar, of course. She's not a meat eater, and they were preparing mixed paella, and so she couldn't eat that. So we went up there to try to get something from this bar nearby. I think the bar actually was owned by the people who own the albergue as well. And we wanted paella, and it was, I would never say anything like it. It wasn't rice. It was little tiny thin strips of pasta with some very, very few pieces of seafood in it. We had a salad and a couple of glasses of wine, a couple of brandies, which wasn't a great idea. I returned to the room as Em was calling her boyfriend on the phone, and I could see our roommates were getting ready for bed. So obviously they didn't want somebody coming in late. So I went back to the bar to grab Emma
Of course, she'd got herself another glass of wine. So I brought her back to the place, said everyone was going to bed, and we all settled down for a decent night, actually. But it was another really, really satisfying day that I felt we covered some land, some ground. We didn't get quite as far as we wanted, but we felt okay with it. Our big concern, though, was that the remnants of Hurricane Leslie, I think it is, Hurricane Leslie, were starting to batter the west coast of Spain, and we knew it was heading our way for Sunday. And I'm going to tell you about Sunday in a second. Now, I actually recorded that on day 6 because I'm in a hotel on day 6, which should give you a bit of clue how day 6 has gone. And I'm going to move straight on to that, then we'll sum up the week afterwards. So, day 6. And the plan, our 34-day plan, calls for us to get from Estella, which we weren't even at, then make our way to Los Arcos, which was going to be about a 15-mile day. The fact that we weren't even in Estella made that more problematic, and we could see the weather was getting worse and worse and worse. So we got up fairly early. We headed out. It was still dark. It was about 7:45 in the morning. I slept pretty well, actually, and I think so had Emma. We packed up. We didn't have any breakfast. There was no breakfast to be had. She'd already helped herself to a coffee out of a machine, which wasn't very good at all, so I didn't have any of that. So we wanted to make our way quickly to Estella and then see what we were going to do. But very, very quickly, we decided this was a day to rest. Emma was having a real pain in her ankle, and my legs seemed sort of restless almost overnight, and they were aching a lot. So I thought to myself, if you're going to have a 0 day, why not have it in a day that you're going to get poured on? This is going to be about 5 or 6 hours of rain today, and this is now we've now been here in Estella, that 2 and a bit miles to get into Estella. We did that in a couple of hours. Found a fabulous little place called Namaste to get some coffee and some beautiful open sandwiches. Really, really enjoyed that. But we decided we were going to try to stay in Estella, and we were going to try to stay somewhere reasonably comfortable just to rest for the day. And we found this hotel. It is called Hotel Tximista, Tximista. It's a converted industrial warehouse, I think. And it's on the other side of town. Actually, the trail doesn't go much into Estella. It kind of skirts the southern end of it and then goes back out again. But we decided to try to get into this hotel. It's another $75 or $80 to pay for it. But I think it was money well worth it. We got here early. They made up one of the rooms so Emma could take a room. I didn't get mine till about midday, but I'm in there now. And so our hiking's done for the day. I think there are times when you just got to listen to your body. You know, we were really, really tired. Her ankle was hurting. So it's been kind of fun to watch the rain pour down outside. And we both sent each other a text that we felt we'd be justified for stopping for the day. So that's it. That's the end of 6 days, and we should be 1 stop further down the road. So we're a little bit behind, but I'm not too worried about that. I think we can make up some of that as time goes on. Speak to you soon. So we've ended the week, or ended 6 days anyway, and a kind of negative note, I guess, to finish like this, but I think you've got to listen to your body. I think it's really important that Emma gets her ankle right. She doesn't want this to be a walk-ending injury, and obviously nor do I. Resting up every now and then is a good thing. We've had some fun this week. I think we're always going to remember the Chinese ghost. It just cracked us up. I think we remember the camaraderie of everybody, and frankly, I'm loving spending time with my niece. Just the 2 of us out on the trail together. We seem to walk at the same sort of pace, and we seem to enjoy each other's company. You know, we had a long chat last night when we had our slightly longer and slightly boozier dinner than we intended to. But that was fun, and really we've just had a good time together, interacting with people on this trail. This trail is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and Spain seems to be almost uniquely set up for it. All these towns were built up around the Camino.
And there's always a bar open in the morning as you head out. You can get a coffee. You can, if you want, get a beer at about 7 o'clock in the morning. Not too sure what that's all about, but don't think we've done that yet, but we'll see if we do that in the future. We're a day beyond schedule. I can't get over that. I'm hopeful we can make up a bit of it in the next 3 days. And if the weather eases off a bit, then we should get back into it a little bit more. I'm just hopeful that everything eases and all the little niggly injuries heal up and we get walking again tomorrow and we're going to get back into our stride. Okay, so I'll see you again on Thursday with little reports from day 7, day 8 and day 9. Emma and I will see you soon.